Hello guys, how you doing? DJ AJ 101 here, and I'm here with another little article for you. Too many articles these days, right? All ridiculous stuff. But anyways, I thought I'd share this one with you. It's actually about Google's chairman, Eric Schmidt, at the Le Web conference this week in, I think it was Paris, France. Yes, Paris this week, of course. I should have read the article beforehand. I did, just kidding, but, Anyways, take a look at the article. Eric Schmidt insists that Google is way ahead of iOS, way ahead of Apple's mobile operating system. That Android's the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter, all this crazy stuff. He says it's the one to get. Apple, iOS, not even a factor. It's Android, baby. It's the way to be. But the reason I'm making this video is because I really don't agree with him 100%. I do agree that Android has some nice features, and Android has some, enhanced user interfaces that the iPhone probably would like to have and doesn't have at this point, but maybe coming in the future. But the way he kind of puts it, and I'll read a little quote in here from him, he just pretty much says, with the ice cream functionality, which is Android 4.0, the ice cream sandwich upgrade, he says in 6 months, you won't even need to ask, which question the better OS is. He says developers will develop more apps for Android because Android will be the cream of the crop and inspire more devices to get sold with ice cream sandwich on, and will be a better off developing environment for developers. So developers will basically flock to Google, and he says it's all about the numbers, and it's all about this, and it's all about that. Now, I will agree with him in a small way. It is about numbers. You got to make unit sales, and of course, it's basic business. You wanna have the top selling, the cream of the crop product. However, when Eric Schmidt in this article, and I'll leave the link in the article that or I'll leave the link in the description so you guys can read it yourself. But he also talks about that Android, Android was first. iOS came after Android. Android was first in development. And I'll actually link two other pages. There's actually two other pages that have kind of a little bit of comparison, because a lot of people say that Android was inspired by iOS, and I think that is in a way true. I mean, Android did have touch interface when it was being developed. It wasn't nearly as good as iOS is with the pinch to zoom interface and the multi-touch. As you guys can see right here, this is actually one of the demo handsets that Android first had when it was first being developed. It had a QWERTY keyboard. It was not touchscreen in some of the products, but of course the higher end products did have a touchscreen. Of course, you look before the iPhone came out, after the iPhone came out, it's a huge difference. I'm sure it was very influential, even though Eric Schmidt says, look which one was developed first. He'll never admit, that it was influenced by iOS. But anyways, where was I going with this? Anyways, getting back on track. Eric Schmidt is looking a lot at the numbers, and he says, it's going to be a great, more developers are going to flock to the Android development because we're going to have better numbers. However, I think he's missing a major point that Steve Jobs really influenced and hit on, and he basically said this is the way that it should be marketed to begin with. It should be about a better user experience, which numbers aren't going to give you that. You can have, the most numbers in the world doesn't mean you have the best user experience in the world. It just means that maybe you have the cheapest phones, and a lot of people wanted to get on that bandwagon because their friend had an Android, or they wanted this and they wanted that. It just happened to fit their needs. However, there are many, many flaws in Android that prove that it's not as fluent and it's not as graphically pleasing as iOS is, with the fluent motions. And I've seen this myself with using friends' Android phones, and it does seem to lack, that little bit of lackluster polish that Android seems to have a little bit of lackluster lacking. And of course, this does probably have a little bit to do with the fragmentation, that it's on basically any device from a 500 megahertz Android phone to a 1 point whatever dual core, quad core gigahertz, whatever it may be. And these Android versions, of course, have to be supplemented, between Android 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0, and then it's just all in between, everywhere else in between. Even though 3 was specifically a tablet OS from Google as a flavor of Android. But what do you guys think? That's just kind of my thoughts. I think that the iPhone definitely has more polish than what Android has, and I don't think that this is the right way to go about it, to say that, hey, the fact that we're going to have the more developers, it means that we're going to win and we're going to have better numbers and all this stuff, but you really need to throw that dash of polish in there and actually have that quality factor about it as well, because I've definitely noticed that playing games and certain graphical user interfaces on my iPhone do definitely trump the Android phones, and it really depends on, of course, the hardware that's running as well, because it's kind of like, it's kind of like Windows in the PC industry. You can run Windows on pretty much anything, you can run Android pretty much anything. But anyways, my 5 cents. What do you guys think? I know I have plenty of cents to put in, but let me know what you guys think. Leave a video response, leave a comment. always welcome. I love to hear your questions, and would love to answer them for you. Also, if you'd like to rate and subscribe, that would be awesome. 2 thumbs up for subscribing and rating. That helps me out, helps me bring great content for you guys. But I just like to let you guys know about this and ask you what you guys think. I'll leave the articles linked in the description below, and feel free to check them out. Anyways, guys, been DJ AJ 101 here. Have a great day, you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.